This episode of the Model 3 Owners Club podcast is brought to you by Duliban Insurance. If you live in Ontario, Canada, and are looking for the best price and coverage on your Tesla, give Duliban a call at 1-855-385-4226 or visit our website at dulibaninsurance.com/Tesla. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Model 3 Owners Club podcast. I'm your host, Trevor Page. I'm also joined by my hosts, Ian Pavelko and Eric Camacho. Gentlemen, how are you doing today?
Hello.
Hello, hello, hello.
Excellent. I want to apologize. I'm feeling a little under the weather. Of course, we were supposed to do the podcast last night. Of course, I had to postpone until today. Apologize if I hack a little bit. This cold has gone down into my chest, so that's never fun. I don't get colds very often, so hopefully this won't happen.
But when he does, it's a man cold.
Yes, exactly.
Don't we all?
I think we want to start. We got a lot to cover. I think we're going to start with the public service announcement about cars and coffee at EVAnnex. So we put out a little video and notice there. So you want to put down on your calendar February 3rd. That's Sunday, February 3rd, Super Bowl Sunday. But we're going to do it in the morning. It'll be from 9 a.m. to 12 noon at EVAnnex in South Florida. So I'll put a link down in the video or the podcast description. You can check it out. There is an RSVP, though, so you have to sign up for this. They're trying to get a head count so they can plan accordingly. So if you want to attend and you want to come and meet all of us, as well as Michael Bodner from the Tesla Tunity channel and Rafael Santoni from Tesla Tino, that's your opportunity to come out and see everyone. So I hope you guys will come out and come and say hi to all of us. We're going to have a heck of a lot of fun, take a little vacation time at the same time. So, yeah, looking forward to it because, the weather has not been very, very favorable to us up here in the Great White North. What is it, minus 15 at home right now, Ian? It's pretty cold.
Yeah, it was about minus 19 on the way to work. It's hovering around the minus 14, minus 15. With the wind chill, it's in the minus 20s for sure.
Yeah, minus wind chill makes us feel even worse. So
big time. I can't wait. I cannot wait to get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Well, not to rub things in, but it's currently 77 degrees Fahrenheit where I'm at here in Delray Beach. So... It's lovely.
Keep that temperature going for us. Keep it nice and toasty for us when we get down here. Less than a month.
Do what we can.
Less than a month.
The best was Mr. Bodner this morning, Tesla Tunity, tweeting out, "Oh, I'm so glad to have the seat heaters. It's down into the low 60s here in Florida now." I was like, what? Oh, my God.
Well, the fact that he needed the heat seaters, or the seat heaters. See, this is going to be a problem.
That Freudian slip
the fact that he needs the seat heaters is sort of embarrassing because even I'm like, come on, Michael, come on. It's not that cold.
I've been to Florida many, many times in the middle of winter, and it never ceases to amaze me. These people walking around at 61 degrees Fahrenheit with a parka on. I'm thinking, okay, that has to be local.
Oh, and earmuffs.
Here I am
gloves
driving the rental
everything.
Convertible. It's like in the 50s at night, and I'm the idiot, with my T-shirt and shorts with the top down on my rental convertible.
Well, don't forget, our blood is 50% antifreeze, so
there's that.
Or maple syrup, whatever suits
Maple
your fancy.
syrup for sure, definitely.
Yeah. It's a blend.
All right, let's jump into this, guys. We got lots to cover. Of course, the big headline this week is Tesla did their groundbreaking ceremony in China. Here's Elon. Yes, groundbreaking ceremony in Shanghai, China for Gigafactory 3. This is the one that will be producing cells eventually, but cars first. They said that they are aiming to finish initial construction of Gigafactory this summer and start Model 3 production at the end of the year and reaching high volume production next year. Now, you have to parse this a little bit because, China builds things very quickly. We all know this. But I don't think that they're going to have a fully functioning Death Star by this summer. So I do believe what is going to end up happening here is they're going to do some of these sprung structures like they did at General Assembly 4. They'll bring a bunch of those, bring in parts from Fremont, and do final assembly of the cars in China while they still build out the factory by then. So they did say also that the Shanghai Gigafactory, and just to reiterate here, because I've been seeing some things online, people are confused about this, they will produce affordable versions of the 3 and the Model Y for Greater China, all Model S and Model X and higher cost versions of Model 3 and Y will be built in the US for the worldwide market, including China. So basically, that factory over there is only building 3s and Ys for the Chinese factory, or for the Chinese market, Asian market, and everything else is still going to come out of Fremont. So Going to be interesting too, because they also mentioned Model 3 and Model Y being built in the U.S. So where are they going to build these cars? Gigafactory 1, right? Like they're still coy about that whole thing. And of course, they do have their facility in Lathrop. Is that how we pronounce it in California?
Lathrop?
Lathrop? I don't know. Yeah, that's a great big facility. It's almost 800,000 square feet. It looks like it's mostly parts storage. So I do believe that may end up being a buffer for storage of parts being sent off to Gigafactory 3 until they get their things sorted out. So that could be part of the plans. We'll know more, of course, when Tesla's ready to talk, because until then, they don't really talk too much. Mm-hmm. Any thoughts on this? It's going to be exciting.
No, I think it's really exciting. It's sort of, we know that they're ahead of the time frame that they set to get Gigafactory 3 online, which is really great. So the sooner the factory's online, the sooner they can start production, and that's going to really help the Chinese market, especially as we're trying to advance EV sales overseas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with the general idea that we're going to stick with what we sort of know what's going to happen on the state side. I'm pretty sure that you're going to see the Y produced at the Gigafactory, presumably the Semi. The Roadster is a wild card. I mean, that's pretty low volume. They might be able to slot that somewhere else. But as for the Lathrop facility, Trev, I don't, on the scale of what they need to do, I don't. Maybe it would build some sub-assembly parts or something like that, but that's about the most I could see.
I've seen some reports online that it is pretty high, so there's a lot of volume inside. It's almost like 3 stories tall. So, but again, it could be just part storage, warehousing. So
right,
yeah. All right, well, that's the Chinese Gigafactory for you. The next little bit of information, and my throat's a little dry here, so I'm going to take a little water. Big changes coming to the Model S and X as of Monday. This coming Monday, the 75 kilowatt hour battery pack is going bye-bye. Elon confirmed that Tesla, you know what, I'm just going to kind of speculate a little bit on this. I think it's an indication of resources being opened up at Tesla so they can introduce a new battery pack, most likely based on the 2170 cell. So they will have a larger battery pack. Again, this is speculation. This is my opinion here. It's not inside information. But it's high time that they move over to the bigger battery pack. And of course, you can't, when you have production to take care of on Model 3 and all these other things, you only have so many resources. So it's high time that they re-engineer the battery for the S and X to handle the 2170 cell. So what they may end up doing is they could probably still retain maybe a little bit higher battery pack, maybe reintroduce a 90 kilowatt hour battery pack based on the 18650 cell, which is currently being manufactured, and maybe go to, say, I don't know, maybe 120 kilowatt hour on the maybe on a 2170 cell. It kind of falls into plans that they said early 2019 we will see version 3 of the superchargers. These battery packs are currently maxed out as to what they're capable of in terms of charging. Model 3 is able to charge a lot faster because the cells are different, the chemistry is different, it has bigger cables coming out of the charge port going into the battery pack. So a lot of this stuff is just, if you read between the lines with Tesla, I think this is what's going to be happening. It's just kind of finally coming together.
I'm just curious, though. Is the 2170 is quite a bit taller cell? Can that
not that much?
Fit? Well, 70, 65, 5 millimeters. There you go. I guess that's the answer.
It's 10. Well, it's a 10% increase in exterior dimensions, both height and width, but the volume is almost 50% bigger. So you can stuff more stuff in there.
Yeah,
so
I'm just wondering how they're going to actually, because there's not a lot of fat in those packs in terms of excess space. Can you actually fit it in the car's existing structure?
If you look at the Model S battery pack and you look at the Model 3 battery pack, see the Model S battery pack has 14 compartments in there, and they're all separated by little firewalls. They got rid of all of that stuff in the Model 3. So you have 4 bricks, essentially 4 big battery modules with parallel cooling lines running through it. And they have a lactic, it's that teal-colored goo. It's almost like a silicone that actually holds all the cells together. So it's a completely different layout of the battery cells inside the Model 3. What they did on the 100 kilowatt hour battery pack is they just used the same structure. They stuffed more cells in there by packing them tightly, but they had to actually go to 2 coolant loops per module on the Model S on the 100 kilowatt hour battery pack. As it stands right now, they can't change. They can't put any more cells in there. It's just It's just not possible. So they really have to
you sort of max your design capacity based on that original design. And I sort of, if I can switch gears here for a second, I sort of liken what you're saying here to the idea that, and this has been talked about before, I think you've sort of suggested this, that they may just go away with the numerical badging on the vehicles and do what they're doing with the Model 3, which is to sort of define it by the range of the car, not so much the battery number. Because even then, you're looking at, well, what is a 75 kilowatt car? What does that mean to the layperson who's new to electric vehicles? It doesn't really mean a whole amount. Like, okay, great, it's an energy consumption. It's like, what does your 12-volt battery do? Like, how much energy is 12 volts? It's sort of hard to understand. When a 9-volt battery runs your smoke detector in your house. So, it's sort of that correlation, like, well, how much energy does that really translate into? So I sort of think that it's good that they're doing this. It could also be, and this is sort of my theory, that there's also a number of 75 kilowatt battery vehicles just sitting, waiting for deliveries. I know that in the end of last year, and the major push for getting cars out, there were a lot of 75 kilowatt cars just awaiting for owners to take them. So it's also possible they're looking at their inventory and saying, you know what, we have a surplus of 75Ds. We are obviously getting more orders for the longer range battery packs. So there could be, sort of like a stopgap to, we're going to change the battery packs down the road, but for now, let's just stop producing the vehicle that we just have a surplus of. Again, this is completely a theory, but that also could be part of their thinking here.
Yeah, one thing I did want to mention, and I'm trying to bring up the tweet here from Elon. Let's just see if I can find that here. Elon Musk. Someone did ask Elon recently if they were going to be changing the nomenclature on the cars, and he did confirm. Essentially, the person had asked, are you going to be removing the size of the battery packs badging on the cars, the S and the X, like you did on the Model 3? And Elon did confirm it. He said yes, which ties into something that a Tesla representative told me at the Model 3 delivery event back in July of 2017. I had asked them the very same thing. I had asked them very point blank, what's the deal with the badging on the Model 3? Are you going to be putting battery sizes on it? And he said, no. And I'm kind of almost quoting verbatim, says, we wanted to change the narrative because people are confused by sizes of battery packs. They don't know what 75 kilowatt hours. They don't know what 100 kilowatt hours. What they do understand is range. So that's why in the Model 3 we have long range, we have standard range, and we now have mid range, which is, of course, probably be a stopgap. So basically, Elon has just confirmed what that person told me 2 years ago, that the badging on the cars is going to be going away. So I would fully expect to see 2 battery sizes on the S and the X, maybe not initially, but eventually, where we won't have badging on it. It'll just be a Model S long range, Model 3 or Model S mid range or standard range or something to that effect. They may not even badge it as standard range, just like they will in the Model 3. It'll just be Model 3 and then long range.
I must say, as a hardcore gearhead, this saddens me tremendously. I mean, I like badging on cars. We know what a 1.6
You got to shake that old school, right? Ian.
Yeah, like you knew, like when you pulled up with the lights and it said 426 Hemi on the car next to you. Oh no, don't touch that one. I mean, we figured it out. It didn't take that long, and kids growing up in the world now will understand what a 75 and a 100 is. I mean, you got to start somewhere. I mean, I just feel like we're making this, 5-year-old level for people. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, obviously they know what they're doing. There's a lot of marketing people that study this, but I'm kind of like, no. Tell the people what it is. They'll eventually people get used to stuff, like.
Well, I'll take the counter view. There's a lot of people, even I know, that are car enthusiasts that are not gearheads in the sense that you define it, that don't really know what some of those figures and what the nomenclature is for some of these cars. I mean, to the average person, they're like, okay, well, I just want to drive an efficient vehicle. Okay, well, here's a car with a Hemi. I guarantee if you probably polled 10 people, maybe 6 people know what Hemi means in terms of that car. So it's sort of a give and take. Like, yes, you're going to have the traditionalists, the ones who were really gearheads, the motorheads, that sort of thing, that really understand. If they see the badging of a car, they go, okay, I know exactly what that car has. I can tell you ABC about that car. But I think the average American driver specifically probably is not that in-depth about their own car, because think about the number of places where you have to be able to take your car in for an oil change or a tire rotation. There's so many basic things that people can't do on their own cars because they just don't know how to do it. So again, that's not to define anyone by any stretch of the imagination. It's not to stereotype people, but I think the average driver just doesn't know what that stuff really means. So for Tesla to sort of make it more elementary and just define it by range, I think nowadays, especially for electric vehicles, because most people question when it comes to electric cars, what's the range of the car? How far can I go with this? The battery size doesn't dictate that. But if I tell a person, well, this car can do 310 miles, okay, well, that makes more sense. Just like, miles per gallon. It sort of gives you an idea of, well, how far I can go on a 10-gallon tank.
Yeah, here's that tweet that the gentleman had asked. Alistair Gray says, are you moving away from battery sizing in a similar sense of how Model 3s are sold, i.e. long-range performance? Elon tweeted to that. He said his answer was yes. So there's your confirmation. They're moving away from badging on the cars and the battery pack. So if you put 2 and 2 together, that's what we're looking at, I think.
Badges? We don't need no stinking badges.
Yeah, exactly. Deal with it.
Well,
hey, speaking of which, Ian, are you going to put the badging on your car? Or?
Not the dual motor badge, no.
No? You're going to sleep?
No, I'm not. Yeah. Here's the guy arguing. We have to have badges on the car. Oh, you can match your car? No. Yeah, I'm the worst. I can't believe I'm arguing both sides of this argument. But yeah, but this is different. I mean, no, but the giveaway is I'm going to put the spoiler on because I love the spoiler, but I don't know if I'm going to do the dual motor badge. Maybe I will. I mean, Bridge looked at me. He's like, "You, what? You're not going to put the badge on? Are you kidding? You paid all this extra money for this?" And you're, no, that's what I love about it. It's like nobody knows. They pull up to the light. They think, oh, it could just be your standard rear-wheel drive 3. Who knows? And then it vanishes. And I go,
You mean the red caliper brakes don't give it away?
Ah, you see. But to your point,
the
yeah,
average
there's
person
about
would know that.
0.3% of the population that knows that. And what makes it even better now is I see so many standard 3s painting their calipers red. So now the whole ecosystem is messed up.
Guilty. Almost feel like changing the badging on the back of mine, putting P100D ludicrous on the bottom of mine. But that'd be totally poserish, right? So, all right. Well, let's move on here. As I
Would you like me to read this for a bit so you can get some water?
Would you mind, Eric, please?
No problem. All right. So earlier this week, we got reports from Tesla and Elon regarding the fourth quarter of 2018 for the Autopilot safety report. They've been putting out this report now every quarter for the last, I think, 3 quarters, just sort of giving some information. They plan on doing it every quarter moving forward to give us, the layperson, some more information about how Autopilot is performing relative to other manufacturers and accident reports. So I'm going to read from the report directly so we sort of understand what's happening here. So in the report, they said, in the fourth quarter, we registered 1 accident for every 2.91 million miles driven in which drivers had Autopilot engaged. For those driving without Autopilot, we registered 1 accident for every 1.58 million miles driven. So that's almost a 2-to-1 ratio for when Autopilot's engaged to when it's not. By comparison, the National Highway Transportation Safety Authority, or NHTSA, most recent data shows that in the United States, there was an automobile crash every 436,000 miles. So that alone is an impressive statistic showing the safety of the Tesla vehicles, specifically when Autopilot's engaged. The report goes on to say that, should note, in the fourth quarter of 2018, it covered some winter months with less daylight hours, which is more challenging for driving, which typically causes more incidents for all kinds of cars, not just Tesla. So that's the report itself. Trevor or Ian, do you guys have any thoughts?
It's nice. Yeah, there's rousing enthusiasm for this report, but
buy Autopilot. That's awesome.
Yeah, ultimately, and what more do you want? I mean, this is kind of like, at least we're getting some science on this now, and it's coming from outside of, outside of what we've seen previously. It's NHTSA data, which is nice because up until now we've really only had from Tesla, and of course I trust Tesla's numbers to be accurate, but it's nice to see it coming now from an independent agency and confirming what we already know is, I guess, what I would say.
Part of this is important. Sorry, but part of this is really important to Tesla eventually for regulatory approval for full self-driving, so that they can go down and just plunk down, a 3-foot stack worth of paperwork and say, look, it proves that it is actually safer, so that they don't have to go through a regulatory approval that it may take 5 or 10 years, which is typical for any other study that people do out there. So it's nice that they're working together with them to give them the information so that when the time comes for regulatory approval. Unfortunately, in the U.S., it's not typically. Well, NHTSA is a federal organization, but sometimes you have, state by state laws and stuff like that. So
I mean, even just to have the vehicles without autopilot on, it's almost a 4-to-1 ratio from Tesla vehicles compared to other manufacturers, which is, I mean, that's an impressive number on its own. And then you're looking at it's almost an 8-to-1 ratio with autopilot engaged. So that's a mind-blowing figure when you first hear it. And I think as we continue to see improvements in autopilot, as long as we continue to see improvements in safety regulations, we see improvements in how other vehicles are designed, as we see more electric vehicles on the road, then we might see that disparity sort of get closer and closer. But ideally, to your point, it's going to only help the argument that electric vehicles, specifically those that have this kind of technology, are going to become safer than any human driver on the road today.
Yeah.
Well, what I'd love to see is if we could get comparative data from all of the driver assistance systems, like the GM Super Cruise.
But the problem is that there's not enough vehicles sold in the U.S. with that technology on there. Like most cars basically might even have like traffic-aware cruise control, and that's it. Nobody has lane steering. I mean, you've only got a couple of out there, and they're not selling in the kind of numbers. Because if you look what GM sells on their Cadillac stuff, it's only one car that has Super Cruise, I think. Whereas Tesla, it's all the cars.
Limited. Yeah. No, for
so
sure.
I think for the other guys, it's going to take a long time before we actually see any data from the other manufacturers because there's no market penetration yet. FineLab has a line of protective coatings that were engineered to protect your Tesla's paint, leather, carpet, plastic, and wheels, effectively blocking all those UV rays and environmental factors before they ever get to ruin your brand new baby. FineLab offers a complete line of car care products and ceramic coatings for both the do-it-yourselfer and professional detailers. Did we mention we also have the world's first self-healing coating? Check us out at finelab.com, that's spelled F-E-Y-N-L-A-B, to see the science behind the self-healing. Check out our product catalog and click Contact Us for a free quote from a certified installer in your area. FineLab and Tesla, we were meant for each other. All right, I'm feeling better. Let's move on here. This is big news, and we kind of saw the writing on the wall. Model 3 is now officially the best-selling luxury car of 2018 in the U.S. This comes courtesy of Teslarati. They say by selling a total of 145,846 units over the course of the past year, the Model 3 has established itself as the United States' best-selling luxury vehicle, far outpacing its closest competitor. After the Tesla Model 3, the second in last year's luxury vehicle rankings is the Lexus RX, which sold 111,641. Pretty good margin there. Units in 2018, followed by the Toyota-made Lexus RX, are more luxury SUVs from legacy car makers from Germany, such as the Mercedes-Benz GLC, which sold 62,435 units, and the Audi Q5, which sold 61,835 over the year, as noted in a report from CNBC. So, the bottom line, Model 3 is a bona fide, absolute runaway hit.
Now, let that sink in. You see that the number 2 and number 3 positions, of course, are crossover SUVs, right?
Uh-huh. Now I know where you're going with this.
What do you think is going to happen when we get the Y?
Yeah, exactly.
Why don't you tell us?
Why don't you tell us?
It's called Tsunami.
Yeah, the thing you have to remember is that in the U.S., these are very impressive numbers for the U.S., given that the market in the U.S. is very sedan adverse. They like SUVs, small SUVs, that type of thing. Even here in Canada, I've noticed that we love our little SUVs. They're basically everywhere. Every car manufacturer's got some kind of crossover. I take exception to the word SUV because it's too general of a term. The hot popular car market right now is crossovers. Everybody wants a small car that's jacked up, right?
Yep.
So if the Model Y really comes in at the Q5 level, an Audi Q5, which I think is basically its target market, not so much maybe a Q3 because they're going to have to stretch it a little bit. Rumor has it going around that Tesla may have changed their plans, but may even have three rows worth of seats in it. So, I'm
also curious to find out how these numbers are going to look in 4 to 6 months when the standard range model comes into production.
Yeah. Well, that'll be better towards the end of this year. I think there's still a lot of pent up demand, of course, because the standard range Model 3 is still not available yet. If you're new to the program, you're new to Tesla, you need to understand this is how Tesla works. They always make the more expensive cars first. Everything else that's cheaper comes later. It's all about recuperating and making profits as fast as possible. So this is just kind of their modus. This is how they operate. So if you keep asking about where the $35,000 car is, stop asking because you'll never see it. Stop asking. It's coming. Anyways.
We love you. We appreciate you guys asking us on Twitter. It's the same thing every week.
Yes, exactly.
It's coming.
Yeah, it's definitely coming.
It's definitely coming.
Yeah, so Model Y, I think, if they do it right and it has the right flavors and they don't go too crazy and they can basically replicate the Model 3 assembly line without changing too much stuff, there's no reason why I don't think that they could probably ramp up fairly quickly. We've talked about this many times in 2020, sometime next year, probably towards the end of next year. We could definitely see some even bigger numbers. I have a feeling. I mean, don't forget, this last quarter that just went through, Tesla actually made more Model X's than they did S's. I mean, it's always been, the X has always been a little bit lower compared to the S. And Elon had said many times before that he believed that the X would possibly eclipse the Model S. And it hasn't really happened yet, but over the last quarter, they made maybe 100, 200 units more than the Model S. So, again, that's the upper end of the market, of course. When you get into a cheaper market like a Q5, like an Audi Q5 and stuff, those numbers are going to go up. So, there's no doubt in my mind that a Model Y is going to do exceptionally well, especially in the North American market.
And Trev, I want to follow up with that. I also think in due part, the reason why the X has sort of outperformed the S in recent months, I think is since the advent of the Model 3. Once it was in mass production, I think once a lot of orders began getting filled, that's where I think you started seeing the number of S vehicles manufactured and sold sort of take a little bit of a dip because of the introduction to the Model 3. Yeah. Again, my speculation, but I think that's what a lot of people were waiting for the Model 3.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on here. We've got one more piece here to talk about before we get into some other stuff. This article comes courtesy of Tesla Roddy. Tesla is designing an electric pump system that makes its drive units even better. So basically in the article, I'm going to bring it up here for you guys so you can see it. Come on, copy, paste. I should have been more prepared for this.
This is great radio.
There you go. So the gist of the article is that they're designing this new pump so that the fluid temperature inside the electric pump system could be used to control and optimize the lubrication system of a vehicle, thereby improving the efficiency of an electric drive unit. Depending on the temperature of the oil in the system, the electric pump could react accordingly, even warning the vehicle's computers that something's wrong. The readings from the electric pump system can be used to monitor the health of the vehicle's drive unit as well. Tesla explains this process in the following discussion. I won't get into all of the details and stuff. I will definitely link it in the article, and you can go read it for yourself. Again, it just goes back to saying that they're making some definite improvements on the car as they go. We know that the Model 3 unusually features an oil filter on at least the back drive unit. I haven't seen the front drive unit yet, which is unusual because the S and X don't have that. So part of that, of course, don't forget, is the design of the drive units on the Model 3 is going into the semi-truck, and of course, it's more for the other vehicles as well. So it was really designed for longevity. They really took a lot what they learned, because if you look at a Model S from early days, 2012, 2013, a lot of those cars had failed drive units. And they learned a lot from that. And of course, they didn't repeat those mistakes in the Model 3. So a lot of this stuff is really, they're really thinking about million miles. I mean, they did have a tweet they put out a few months ago, where they showed they put 1 million miles in simulation, of course, on the Model 3 drive unit. So it's certainly holding up. I haven't heard of any failures of drive units on a Model 3 that I'm aware of, anyways.
I've heard of precisely one. That was
really?
It was a super early production car, yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting. It was back in spring, I want to say. That's the only one that I've heard of, was directly from the owner.
Well, most of the problems we're experiencing right now is charge port failures in the cold.
But there's a solution coming, is there not?
Yeah, well, we can talk about that real quick, or do you want to get into your book review?
Sadly, gentlemen, I am not prepared for this. I left all of my notes from that at the office.
That's okay.
I was just tweaking that up, so yeah.
That's it. I quit.
I'm done. I'm moving. Bye.
I'm done.
All right. Well, we'll leave it for next.
I promise. Yes, we'll do it in full, and we'll do it all in its glory next week. I promise you.
Sure. Fair enough. Okay. Well,
if you guys come to the Cars and Coffee event, you might even get like a live reading of the book while you're there.
We could do that. That would be a cool thing to do.
I think I just killed Trevor. I'm so sorry.
I told you, don't make me laugh. Sorry, I gotta get it under control.
We have to do it in our best NPR voices too.
Yes, of course.
Sweaty balls.
Well, do we want to get into some Q&A then? Let's talk about the Model 3 charge port thing.
Let's do that.
Hopefully my voice will survive this. We did have a question, and if I can bring it up here in my Twitter feed. because we had some
And
people.
while Trevor's doing that, many thanks to all of you who have been responding to our requests for questions on Twitter. We try to answer as many of you as we can directly, especially if they're questions we've already fielded on the show before. One thing we do want to recommend, a lot of questions we get common are about charging, batteries, obviously now for some winter questions, production ramp ups, things like that. Some of these things are stuff we've covered in the show before. If you can't find it in our previous shows, that's totally fine. We appreciate you guys looking for it and listening to our shows, looking at our YouTube channel, whatever it might be. Also check out the M3OC forum. You might find a lot of topics are sort of reviewed on there. There's a great search feature at the top of the forum. So by all means, feel free to put in your search terms. There's some great moderators who can sort of also gear you in the right direction. Trevor, Michael, and many others can do that for you. So the resources are there, but by all means, if you're having a hard time finding the answer to your question, let us know. We'll do what we can to answer the question either on the show or directly to you on social media.
Our search, excuse me, our search function on the forum works extremely well. Mm-hmm. All right, so the first question comes from Janny G. Says, can you shed some light on the charge port replacement that's in the works? I had mine replaced with an updated version that came out since my June delivery, but my mobile tech said there was another one in the works. The reduced charge in the cold is bothersome. So I'll answer this as best I can. I went to a Tesla Owners Club meeting a couple of nights ago, and they had some mobile service techs, a couple of people that were responsible for service here in Canada. And they addressed this question because it is a bit of an issue that's going on. They are currently working on a redesigned charge port mechanism. Specifically, it looks like it's in the locking pawl, which is the little pin that goes up and holds the charge port in there. They have a new design. It's currently being validated and tested. And they did tell us that Canada is going to get priority to get that as soon as possible, because I think the engineering team in Montreal is working very closely with Tesla to get that corrected. So I hope that answers your question. It's definitely coming. It'll be a free upgrade for anybody who requests it. Chances are Tesla may even look at their service issues and reach out to you to get that replaced. So hope that helps. Let's see here. What else we got? Do you have some of these questions in front of you, Eric? Can you help out?
Yeah, let me go ahead and pull up some stuff here. Just bear me 1 second.
Here, my turn to entertain you. I lived dangerously this past week. I took Magneto down to 2% state of charge.
I've never gone that low. I've been down to 3.
Yeah, I was gunning for 1, but I thought I'm not going to push my luck because it was dark out and rather cold. But my buddy Dave and I are in the process of setting up a rally next weekend, actually. Sorry, a week and a half from now. It's on the 17th. And we're laying out route for it. And this is really about the worst thing you can do to the car in the cold, is to drive it flat out in track mode up through super mountainous terrain where you're constantly changing elevation. It just sucks energy like there's no tomorrow. So it literally drops the car's range in half. It goes from about 300 miles down to about 150. Now, I geared the rally route to be just about exactly that, with a little bit of a fudge factor in it. But still, to show you how good the energy graphing in this car was, I was just constantly pinging it and looking at the average and looking at the average. And it said, yeah, when you get back, you'll be somewhere around 2-ish%, maybe closer to 1. And we were bang on 2 when we got back to the charger. Yeah, it was rather incredible. I will tell you, though, it's astonishing how slow the car is at 2% SOC.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I think the Volt would have left it for dead at a stoplight. It was just like, wow, there's really nothing left when you get that low.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's nice to be able to do that. A lot of people are like, weren't you freaking out? Like, you must be having serious range anxiety. And, I tweeted it was really quite the opposite. The energy graphing in the car is so good. When you plot it against how many miles you're traveling, it's bang on. Now, I wasn't using like the nav or anything. This was not like a predictive range thing. This was strictly the energy graph that you have now available since the last updates. And you look at what it's using in real time, and you just keep refreshing it, and it's bang on.
I've noticed on mine that since they switch over to version 9, that the algorithm seems to be more accurate than it was previous. Like when I had mine last winter, I was like, I always got to leave myself a 5% buffer, because this damn thing is going to leave me, well, not stranded, but it always shows like, I could always count it would be anywhere from 3 to 5% off, but it's much, much more accurate now.
Yeah, it's really amazing.
All right, Eric, how are you doing there, buddy?
Doing well. So actually looking at the thread here on Twitter, most of the questions were sort of asked and answered by us previously before going on to this podcast. We had questions, for example, ranging from, is it possible to have passenger profiles and easy access? Now, you did produce a great video. If you guys don't know, there's some great Model 3 tutorials that Trevor created back in September of last year that are all available online. They're about a minute or less for most of them.
Yeah, I kept them under 2 minutes.
Yeah, you certainly look at some stuff there. The answer to your question, simply, this is asked by Wayne, who goes by @Icebreaker on Twitter. The simple thing is, for passenger profiles, no. You can have multiple driver profiles, and easy access, of course, is for the driver because the steering wheel tends to be an obstruction for some. So that's only for the driver. But as far as how to go about setting those, you can see that in the video. There was a question here about, will the Model Y, this is asked by... his just name is R. Will the Model Y be a $1,000 deposit and wait for a few years situation, or similar to the Model 3 in terms of a few months waiting for a long-range model? Now, I answered it indicating that we do know that production is slated to begin in earnest sometime in 2020. But beyond that, there's not a whole great deal that we know as far as when they might start taking reservations, if they even are going to have reservations. We know there's orders for the Semi coming in, but there's nothing yet for Model Y. I'm not sure if you guys think anything different right now.
Oh, typical Tesla. Yeah, you'll have to put a deposit down. You have to put your name on a reservation list. So yeah, expect it to be $1,000, much like the Model 3.
There you go.
Yeah,
cool.
Well, it's no different right now. You want to order a Roadster, it's minimum $50,000 to get a Roadster. So it's no different.
That's it. Oh, let me just check my SOFR.
Sure, I'll write you a check right now. There you go.
There you go. Matt White asked, here's how I would improve the Model 3 window wipers. When you push the left stock button for the window wipers, the menu comes up on the screen. Then you can use the left scroll wheel to toggle through the options. He wants to know what our thoughts are on that.
That's not a bad idea, using the scroll wheel to because you, yeah. I kind of like it. I'll tell you what I would like. I would like the auto wipers to work properly. Very few things about this car. Man, for the love of God, you know what it needs? They just give us a sensitivity adjustment. Like on my A4, I think it was, when it was in auto mode, you could tell it how sensitive or unsensitive you wanted it to be because it had an actual rain sensor and it would sort of dial it back or dial it up depending on what you want. That's all they need. You keep using the camera. I know where you're going, guys. Like you want to keep the hardware multitasking. That's all good. But just allow us to tell it, because mine is so incredibly lazy. I mean, unless there's literally like a typhoon in front of the car, it's like, oh, do I have to wipe now? Okay.
It is very important that everybody realize, and you may not know this unless you've been following the show for a long time or watched some of the videos I've done, the rain sensing on the Teslas now, since the advent of Autopilot 2 equipped cars, is not a dedicated rain sensor like every other car that has auto rain sensing on the market. They are using the neural network, which is a vision-based system, to detect raindrops and moisture on the windshield. They have to train the computer systems to recognize what's a raindrop, what's a little spittle, all these things. So they need some more training. That's what they have to do. So I do believe they will be making improvements as they do software updates and stuff. But yes, I understand that for the time being there are some issues. So use the button on the left.
Hello, hi, and thank you for calling the M3OC podcast. This
Sorry,
is what
guys.
happens. We are used to doing our show. We usually tape the show on Thursday nights at around 8 o'clock Eastern time. So this is unusual in the middle of the afternoon. So we do apologize for the interruption. Ian's very popular. When it comes to wheel questions, he gets flounded all the time no matter where he goes. So I'll get this one last question out of the way just because it's been asked and answered a number of times. But David Costa, who's overseas in Europe, one of our European customers, thanks for listening to the show, David. The one many Europeans are asking is, when will the Tesla Model 3 mid-range be available in Europe? I'm just waiting for it to place my order. Now, I told David that we've certainly mentioned this on the show a number of times, most recently our last show back on January 3rd. We don't believe there will be a mid-range model coming to Europe. We think that right now the first production battery, the long-range battery, is what's being produced for orders. We know in recent hours there's been a huge shipment of Model 3s that are now going overseas to Europe, if they're not already arrived in Europe. And we think that the mid-range was sort of a holdover here in North America only.
Yeah, it's a stopgap.
Specifically in the US. And then once the standard range comes into production and comes online this year, then we'll start seeing those orders sort of traverse the globe. I think we're all on the same page with that.
Well, I mean, if you look at the way that
Yeah, I'd
Tesla's traditionally done their cars, they have 2 battery pack sizes. It doesn't make sense to take a Model 3 and have 3 battery pack sizes when the S and the X only have 2. I mean, it's supposed to be a simpler car. So yes, the mid-range is really just a stopgap for the North American market until they can ramp up for the standard range car. So yeah, if you're looking for one in Europe, there's a chance they may offer it for a very short amount of time, but otherwise, no, we really do think in 4 to 6 months once they get their standard range going, that's what will be offered in Europe.
There you go. So there were some other questions, but a lot of those were just sort of very simple questions or things that we've sort of answered directly to the customers. But again, all of you guys, thanks for listening in. We always welcome your questions. You don't have to wait for us to sort of ask it on YouTube or any other social media outlet. If you have any questions for us, by all means, tweet one of us. You can message us. You can tweet to the show. We'll be happy to answer your questions and keep a log throughout the week. And we'll try to do this regularly on the shows coming up in the weeks ahead. We
do have an email address. If you feel like sending us like an audio clip or something like that, you want to ask a question live on the show or send us a video or whatever, you can email it to us. It's podcast at Model3ownersclub.com. I haven't been checking that too much because we haven't really put it out there for people to be able to reach us out. But you know what? Twitter works great. We like to read the questions, so whatever works for you there. All right. Any last thoughts, guys, before we sign off for today?
Well, I certainly hope that we get a good turnout for the Cars and Coffee. I'm very excited about that. So please, anybody, if you're anywhere near the area, sign up for the event. Go to the site, register yourself now, and we'd love to see you down there. Yeah,
I'm just looking at the registration page right now. There are 69 registrants already.
Nice.
So yeah, we're going to get a good turnout this year. That's for sure.
Excellent.
It's going to be even better than last year. I mean, look at these 69 pictures. I mean, these were pictures taken by EVAnnex last year. I mean, we only had 3 Model 3s show up because it was really early days. We had lots of S's and X's and stuff. There's going to be some other stuff showing up, of course. There are going to be some surprises for those of you who attend and stuff. So, anyways, look forward to seeing you guys.
It's a great event. The weather should be fantastic. Usually here in South Florida, early February, the climate is just perfect. Usually their days are nice and sunny, very cool and temperate weather. Last year, they're going to do the same thing this year. There'll be some gift bags for those of you guys that register. There'll be some breakfast items. You'll see coffee, donuts. There's some finger foods and stuff like that. Awesome. And EVAnnex is going to have some great clearance items there as well. So there was some items to order for your Tesla vehicles for S, X, and 3. So it's a great event, very family friendly. Trevor's family might even make an appearance there. So it's a really great event for everybody. Of course, as I mentioned before, Michael from Tesla Tuning will be there. Raphael will be there from Tesla Tino. The 3 of us will also be there with our significant others. So again, it's a great event. Just make sure you register. That way they have a head count as far as who's coming. And then when you get there, you sign in, you get your gift pouch, and then enjoy the morning. It starts at 9 a.m. on Sunday, February 3rd, which is Super Bowl Sunday for those of you that follow sports. So we'll be done around noonish. So that way you can enjoy whatever festivities you have the rest of your day. But again, it's from 9 a.m. to noon on Sunday, February 3rd. Please register. The link will be in the description for this YouTube video. So you can find it there if you're listening to it on the podcast.
Excellent. That's exactly what's going to happen. I'm really looking forward to that. Well, let's sign off from the show, guys. Eric, where can people find you on the internet if they want to have a little chit-chat with you and reach out?
You guys can find me on Twitter, pretty much the easiest way to get a hold of me. And my handle is ECFix. That is ECFIX.
Excellent. And what about you, Mr. Pavelko?
Well, on Twitter, I would be at Ian Pavelko with the handle Mad Hungarian. And you can also find me on Model 3 Owners Club under the same handle, Mad Hungarian. And finally, if any of you are looking for some fine Tesla wear, of course, there's always the Mad Hungarian's Evolve wear on Teespring. There you go, Mr. Camacho, modeling it as ever. Good man that he is. So yes, if you go to Teespring, Spring.com, and just look up Mad Hungarian or Evolve wear, you'll find the WMA, the Weapons of Mass Adoption shirt that Eric is modeling for us this afternoon, or you can go with the traditional Evolution shirt. Both are available, and the money goes to a great cause. There's a good chunk of the profits that are all going to Plug in America, to Electromobility Canada, and of course l'AVEC, l'Association des véhicules électriques de Québec.
Excellent. Well, there you go. That's the end of the show, folks. If you want to reach out, you can find me on Twitter. The handle is @Model3Owners. Don't forget, of course, the best place to find out all your Model 3 information is Model3ownersclub.com. Sign up for the forum. It's totally free. Lastly, I want to say thank you to our 3 sponsors. That's EVAnnex, FineLab, and Duliban Insurance, of course. Those guys are really awesome. Check them out. And thank you to our Patreon sponsors. They're the guys that make this show really happen for us. So thanks for watching and listening, no matter where you happen to be out there, and we'll catch you on the next one. See you guys.
Goodbye.
Bonsoir, everybody.